The signal in the void, the galaxy was quiet, silent in the endless darkness of space. Stars burned in the distance, their light crossing millions of years to reach lonely eyes. Ships traveled between worlds, carrying trade, diplomacy, and secrets, but then, one night in deep space, the silence was broken. A faint distress call whispered across the void. It was not a normal signal, not a call from any known race. It came from the far edge of the galaxy. Beyond mapped stars, the message was weak, fragmented, like a dying voice begging to be heard. Yet in its broken code there was fear, there was urgency, and something else. Something that made even machines hesitate. The Galactic Council was the first to detect it. 1,000 alien delegates gathered, debating the meaning of the call. Some said it was a trap, a trick by an unknown enemy. Others whispered that it was a warning from a lost empire. A few even claimed it was a ghost, a dead signal echoing for centuries. But through the noise and argument, one thing was clear. The call unsettled them all. It stirred something ancient in their memory. The translation was broken, but a few words emerged. "Help us," it said, and then "they are coming." After that, static filled the silence again. For weeks the council did nothing. They sent probes, but the probes vanished without reply. They voted again and again, but fear held them still. No one wanted to be the first to answer. And so the galaxy turned away, pretending not to hear, but humans were different. They were young compared to the old powers of the stars. They were not as wealthy, not as advanced, not as cautious, and yet, when their scientists detected the same signal, humanity did not ignore it. On Earth, leaders debated late into the night. Some generals warned against it. Some politicians said it was not their problem. But the voice of the people was louder. Human history carried too many stories of ignored cries for help. And humanity had promised itself never to repeat that mistake. Captain Aaron was chosen to lead the mission. He was not the most powerful commander, but he was known for courage and for loyalty to his crew. When he stood before the fleet, his words were simple. "We answer the call, because if we don't, no one else will." The fleet that set out was not large, just a handful of ships, each carrying both weapons and hope. Engineers worked day and night to prepare them. Scientists packed tools for decoding strange signals. Soldiers prepared for dangers they could not yet imagine. And families stood at the spaceport, watching their loved ones leave as the ships rose into orbit. The galaxy watched. Many aliens mocked humanity. Calling them reckless, others admired them but whispered they would not return. The council recorded their departure as a minor operation. But secretly, every race waited to see what would happen. The journey to the signal was long. The fleet traveled through empty systems where no sun burned. They passed ancient ruins left behind by forgotten civilizations. They crossed silent nebulae where stars had died long ago. Each night the crew listened to the distress call. Faint, broken, always repeating, always pleading. Until it became a part of their dreams, Captain Aaron never let fear show on his face. But in private, even he wondered what they would find. Would it be survivors waiting to be saved? Or would it be something far worse, something that hunted still? He told himself the same words again. If we do not answer, who will? Finally, after weeks of silence and endless travel, the fleet arrived. They reached a dead star system, its sun long extinguished. Planets drifted like frozen corpses around the black core. And there, at the edge of the system, they saw it. A massive derelict ship. Ancient and broken, its hull was scarred. Its lights long dead, yet from deep within, the signal still pulsed, weak, desperate, but alive. The human crew stared at it in awe. Some whispered it was a ghost ship, others said it was a tomb. But Captain Aaron only said one thing. "Prepare the landing teams. We are going aboard." As shuttles launched toward the derelict, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The distress call had been heard, and humanity was the only race brave enough to answer. But what they would find inside, no one was ready to face. The human decision. The human fleet drifted near the derelict ship. Dark metal stretched across kilometers, silent and lifeless. It looked less like a vessel and more like a floating grave. Every sensor sweep showed no life signs. No power, no movement, yet still from deep inside, the distress call kept echoing. Captain Aaron stood on the bridge of the flagship. His crew waited for his command, their faces tense. He looked at the broken giant on the screen and felt a weight in his chest. Some part of him wanted to turn back, but another part, the stronger one, whispered that this was exactly why they had come. Council would never dare, one officer muttered. They would leave this ship to rot in silence. And maybe they are right, another whispered. Maybe this is a trap. Maybe something still waits inside. Aaron raised his hand and silenced them all. We came here to find answers. Not to run from shadows, he said. The decision was made. Humanity would be the first race to set foot on the ship. Teams prepared in silence, their armor heavy, their weapons ready. Engineers carried scanners, doctors carried medkits. Every step they took was filled with both fear and courage. When the first shuttle docked, the sound of metal scraping metal echoed across the comms. The airlock hissed open. Darkness poured inside like a living thing. Flashlights cut through the void. Beams of light dancing across ancient walls. Symbols no one recognized were etched into the steel. The corridors stretched like veins into the heart of the ship. Lieutenant Mira led the first team. She was young but sharp, and her voice stayed calm over the radio. Air is thin but breathable, she reported. Gravity is weak, but stable. Her words gave courage to the others. Step by step they moved deeper inside. The deeper they went, the more unsettling it became. Scorch marks lined the walls as if battles had raged inside. Doors were torn open by something not human. Claw marks gouged the metal long and deep. Every corridor told the story of violence, a story with no survivors. Back on the flagship, Captain Aaron listened. He felt the weight of every sound, every silence. The crew on the bridge stared at the screens. They watched the life sign monitors flicker as the away team moved deeper. But the distress call was louder here. It echoed through their comms, like a whisper crawling into their minds. Suddenly Mira's voice cut in, sharp and urgent. Captain, we've found the source, she said. The cameras showed a vast chamber. At its center stood a beacon, ancient, cracked, still pulsing weak light. It was the size of a tower, covered in alien markings, and from it came the signal that had reached across the galaxy. But there was something strange. The beacon was not only sending a call, it was also receiving. Dozens of smaller devices surrounded it like hungry mouths waiting for a reply. The signal was not just a distress call, it was bait. The team froze in silence. Mira's eyes widened as she scanned the machines. This was never about rescue, she whispered. This was a trap. Someone wanted others to come here. Her words chilled the fleet. If true, then humanity had walked straight into danger. On the flagship, some officers panicked. We must leave now, one shouted. If this is a lure, then predators may already be on their way. But Captain Aaron did not move. His mind raced, but his voice stayed calm. If this is a trap, then someone set it long ago, he said. And if it still waits, then the galaxy is in danger. Not just us. For the first time, humanity realized the scale of their choice. They could run, abandon the ship, pretend they never heard the call, or they could stay, unlock the secret, and face whatever horror might come. The Council would never risk it. The other races would never dare. But humanity was different. They had always walked toward danger when others hid. Captain Aaron stood tall on the bridge. All ships prepare defensive formation, he ordered. To run now is to leave the galaxy blind. To stay is to risk everything. But we are human and we do not turn away. His crew saluted. Their fear replaced by fire back inside the derelict. Mira touched the beacon's surface. Her scanners beeped with rising warnings. Energy was building, faint but steady. As if the ship itself was awakening from centuries of sleep. She swallowed and whispered into the comms, Captain, I think we've started something. The signal grew louder, stronger. Not just a whisper now, but a scream tearing through space. The galaxy would hear it again, and something somewhere in the dark would answer. The dark discovery. The distress beacon pulsed like a dying heart. Each wave of energy rattled the ancient walls. Dust floated in the weak gravity, glittering in the flashlight beams. The away team stood frozen around the machine. None of them wanted to touch it again, yet none could look away. Mira's voice trembled through the comms. It's not just sending a call, Captain. It's unlocking something. Her scanners flickered with strange readings, energy patterns no human had ever seen before. It was as if the beacon was speaking to something far beyond their reach. Captain Aaron listened in silence around him. The officers argued in hushed voices. Shut it down before it brings something here, one said. No, study it. This could be the knowledge of an ancient empire, another argued. But Aaron knew there was no time for debate. The signal was growing stronger by the minute. Suddenly the ship shook. The away team stumbled. their lights flashing across broken walls. One soldier raised his weapon, swearing he saw movement, but when the lights returned, there was only emptiness, or so they thought. They reached another chamber, larger than the last. The walls were lined with pods, hundreds of them. Each pod was cracked open, long abandoned. Inside lay the remains of a crew, unlike any species known to the galaxy. Tall, skeletal, with elongated skulls and armored skin, they looked like warriors frozen in their final rest. The sight chilled the humans even in death. The alien faces seemed locked in fear, not the fear of dying, but of something greater. One soldier whispered, "What killed them?" No one answered because no one could. As Mira examined the remains, she found marks etched into the floor, not written words but claw scratches, frantic, desperate. The same markings repeated again and again. Her translator struggled but finally gave a broken phrase. "They are here." The team exchanged terrified looks. If these warriors had feared something, then what chance did humanity have? The claws were deep, as if the aliens had tried to carve their last warning into the steel, and yet the beacon still called. Still begged, still lured like a ghost refusing to let go. Back on the flagship, tension grew. Reports came in of strange signals on the edge of their scanners, blips that appeared and vanished, like shadows moving just out of sight. Communications hissed with static. The distress call seemed to be merging with their own comms. Voices whispered in the background, not human, not alive. Captain Aaron gripped the console. His instinct screamed at him to leave. But he also knew this was bigger than one fleet. The galaxy had ignored this call for too long. Now humanity stood at the threshold of its secret. The away team pushed deeper. Their lights cut across vast halls filled with broken machines. Weapons of unknown design lay shattered on the floor. Signs of battle were everywhere, but strangely, there were no bodies beyond the first chamber. It was as if something had taken them all. Leaving only silence, Mira stopped at a sealed door. Her scanners showed faint energy inside. The soldiers prepared to cut it open. Metal sparked and screamed as their torches sliced through. The door fell with a crash, and beyond it was darkness deeper than before. They stepped inside cautiously. At the center of the chamber stood a single object, a black sphere, smooth and perfect. It hovered above the floor, humming with low vibration. The distress signal now came directly from it. Each pulse shook the chamber like a heartbeat. Mira raised her scanner. Her device flickered, failed, and then died. The sphere gave off no readable data, yet it radiated power, cold and heavy. It was not a machine of distress, it was a prison. Suddenly the chamber lights flared. Ancient systems flickered alive for the first time in centuries. Symbols lit up on the walls, glowing with warning. The translator cracked, distorted, but delivered fragments. "Containment breach," it said. "Do not answer," it said. But humanity had already answered. The black sphere pulsed again, harder this time. The vibrations shook dust from the ceiling. Mira stumbled back, her eyes wide. This is not a call for help," she whispered. "This is a warning to stay away." Captain Aaron's voice broke through the static. "Mira, report." But before she could reply, the sphere shifted. The hum grew louder, changing into something like a growl. And for the first time, the humans realized something inside the sphere was waking. The distress call had been a trap. But worse than that, it had been a cage, and now humanity had started to open it. Whatever had terrified an ancient empire was about to rise again, and the galaxy would never be the same. The awakening threat. The black sphere pulsed again, louder this time. The chamber walls trembled as dust rained from the ceiling. The glow of the alien symbols grew brighter. Burning with warning, the humans stood frozen, weapons raised. But weapons felt useless here. This was no ordinary device, it was alive in some way. Mira's voice shook as she reported, "Captain, this sphere is not sending a distress call, it is sending coordinates." Her scanner blinked red before dying completely. Every ship in orbit received the same signal at once. A wave of data spilling out into the void. Racing faster than light on the flagship, alarms blared. The comms filled with static, then whispers, then screams. Officers shouted as screens flashed unknown codes. The distress call had changed. It was no longer begging for help. Now it was an invitation. Captain Aaron slammed his fist against the console. "Cut all transmissions," he ordered, but it was too late. The signal had already traveled far beyond them. The coordinates were now echoing across the galaxy. Moments later, the sensors lit up. Ships were approaching, not human, not council. Their shapes were sharp, predatory, designed only for war. Dozens. Then hundreds of signatures appeared at the edge of the system. It was as if the void itself had vomited nightmares. The crew stared in horror. "These ships, they're not like anything in our records," one whispered. They were old, older than the derelict. Engines burned with a sickly green glow, hull plating twisted and jagged like bone and teeth. And their signals carried no greetings, no codes of peace. Only one message repeated again and again: "Feast on the derelict." Mira heard the same transmission. Her blood ran cold. "They are coming for us," she whispered. The soldiers tightened their grips on their rifles, but deep inside they all knew rifles would not save them. Captain Aaron's voice boomed across the fleet. "All ships, defensive formation. Prepare for contact." Fear rippled through the crews, but with it came fire. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and every soldier knew retreat meant the predators would follow. Not just to them, but to every world behind them. The alien warships closed in fast. Their weapons glowed, ready to tear apart steel. Yet they did not attack immediately. They circled, studying, like hunters watching prey. The silence was worse than battle. It felt like being judged by something ancient. Something hungry on the flagship, Aaron whispered to himself. So this is what the distress call was hiding. Not survivors. Not a cry for rescue, but a prison built to lock away predators older than empires. And now humanity had opened the cage. The first attack came without warning. A blast of green energy split through the void. It struck one of the smaller human ships, tearing its hull apart. The crew screamed before the signal cut to silence. The fleet shook with the shock, and the predators laughed. A sound like static and thunder mixed together. "Return fire," Aaron shouted. Cannons roared. Missiles streaked across the void. Explosions lit the black system like false stars. One predator ship cracked under the barrage, but for every one destroyed, 5 more pressed forward on the derelict. Mira and her team felt the ship quake as battles raged outside. The sphere pulsed harder, feeding energy into the predator's signal. She realized with horror. The beacon is not just a trap, it is a beacon for them. It wakes them. Her voice broke. "We didn't find them by accident. They wanted us to find them." Aaron's mind raced. Every instinct told him to retreat, to save what remained of his fleet. But deep inside he knew the truth. If they ran, the predators would follow. If they survived, the galaxy would not. This was no longer about curiosity or bravery. This was war. The predators pressed closer. Their ships moved with unnatural speed. Their weapons tore through human shields as if they were paper. But still the humans fought. They fought not to win, but to stall, to send a message back to Earth, to warn the galaxy. As the flagship shuddered under heavy fire, Aaron stood tall. His crew looked to him, waiting for orders. He clenched his jaw and said the words that would echo in history. "We are the first to face them. But we will not be the last. We will make our stand here. So when the galaxy learns of this day, they will know humanity did not run." Outside, fire and light tore across the dead star system. The predators had awakened, but so had humanity's defiance. The signal had been answered, and the response would shake the galaxy forever. Humanity's stand, the void was burning. Human ships fought like sparks against a storm. Predator vessels swarmed in endless waves, their weapons tearing through steel and fire. For every human missile that struck true, another predator ship closed in, but humanity did not break. On the flagship, Captain Aaron stood firm. His eyes burned with defiance. Though fear pressed heavy on every heart, the officers shouted reports. "Shields at 30%, one cried. 2 ships down, another crippled," another shouted. The bridge shook as enemy fire slammed into their hull. Still Aaron's voice was steady. "Hold the line," he ordered. Mira's team inside the derelict fought a different battle. The black sphere pulsed like a drumbeat of war. Each pulse made the predators outside stronger, faster, hungrier. She scanned the alien device desperately. "There has to be a way to stop it," she whispered. Her hands shook as she worked. If the beacon was fueling the enemy, destroying it might weaken them. But the sphere hummed as if mocking her attempts. Back in space, the predators attacked with savage precision. They did not fight for victory. They fought for consumption. Every human ship destroyed was torn apart, its debris swallowed for resources. The horror of it filled the human crews with rage. They realized this was not war, it was feeding. Aaron's jaw clenched as he watched another ship fall. He slammed his fist onto the console. "They think we are prey," he growled. "They think we are weak." Then he raised his voice across all comms. "But they are wrong. Today they will learn what it means to fight humans." The fleet rallied at his words. Ships moved into tighter formation, shields overlapping. Engineers rerouted power from life support into weapons. Soldiers prepared boarding torpedoes to strike the enemy directly. Every man and woman aboard understood. Survival was no longer the goal. The goal was to stand to hurt the enemy, to prove humanity would not bow. The first counterstrike came fast. Human ships unleashed concentrated fire on a Predator cruiser. Missiles tore through its hull. Cannons ripped its engines apart for the first time. A Predator ship exploded in full view of the fleet. The cheer that rose through human comms was raw and fierce. For a heartbeat, hope burned bright, but the Predators did not retreat. They roared with static laughter and came harder. More ships poured in from the edge of the system. The humans fought with fury but were pushed back inch by inch. It seemed the light of victory would die as quickly as it came. Then Mira's voice cut through the chaos. "Captain, listen, the beacon is linked to their fleet," she shouted. "It is feeding them energy, guiding them here if we break it. We weaken them." Aaron's heart pounded. "Can you destroy it?" he asked. There was silence, then Mira whispered, "Yes, but it may take all of us." Aaron closed his eyes for one moment. He thought of Earth, of the billions who had no idea of the danger rushing toward them. He thought of the Council, still too afraid to act. And he thought of humanity's place in the stars. His eyes opened, steel in his voice. "Then do it, Mira. Humanity will hold the line until you succeed." The flagship roared forward. Leading the charge, human ships spread out, targeting the Predators with reckless courage. They fought like wolves against lions. Each maneuver cost lives, but each strike landed deeper. Harder. Predators fell in flames. Not used to prey that fought back so fiercely. On the derelict, Mira and her team planted charges around the sphere. The humming grew faster, louder, almost like a heartbeat in panic. The walls shook as the device resisted. Alien symbols flashed warnings too fast to read. Mira's breath came heavy as she armed the last charge. "This is for everyone who came before us," she whispered. "And for everyone still alive outside." The battle reached its peak. Human ships were torn apart, but they refused to scatter. Every explosion of their own ships took Predators with them. Aaron's voice thundered across the fleet. "They wanted prey. We give them warriors," his crew shouted in unison, voices fierce even as fire consumed their decks. Mira's hand pressed the detonator. For 1 second, silence fell. Then light ripped through the chamber as the charges exploded. The black sphere cracked, split, and collapsed into shards. A scream unlike anything human filled the comms. Every Predator ship shuddered, their green flames flickering. Their weapons faltering on the bridge, officers gasped. "Captain." "Their shields are dropping." Aaron's eyes narrowed. "Then strike. Strike with everything we have left." The human fleet poured all power into their final attack. Cannons blazed, missiles streaked, and Predator ships burst apart in fire. For the first time, the Predators retreated. Not in defeat, but in surprise. They had found prey that bled them. Prey that fought back. Prey that refused to die. The surviving humans floated among wreckage and silence. Exhausted, broken, but alive, they had stood against the Predators. And though the war was far from over, humanity had taken its first step into legend. The Council's realization the battle was over. But the silence after was heavy. Wreckage drifted across the dead system. Glowing embers of ships, both human and Predator. Human survivors worked tirelessly to repair their damaged hulls. Every console flickered. Every corridor smelled of smoke and blood. But against all odds, they had survived. The Predators had retreated into the darkness, their laughter replaced by a low static growl that lingered in the comms. It was not defeat, it was a promise that they would return stronger, hungrier. Humanity had won a moment, but not the war. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The Galactic Council summoned an emergency session. Delegates from 1,000 worlds filled the chamber, their voices loud and frightened. Holograms of the human battle streamed before them. Predator ships, human courage, the explosion of the black sphere. The Council had mocked humanity once, now they watched in stunned silence. "This is impossible," one alien delegate hissed. "No prey could face the hunger fleet and live," another spat. They were supposed to die in silence, not stand as warriors. Fear shook their voices. The Predators were not unknown to them long ago. Their ancestors had whispered legends of monsters in the dark, but none had believed those stories were true until now. The council's speaker, an ancient alien with trembling hands, addressed the chamber. "Humanity has awoken a terror sealed for millennia," he said. "They have brought danger to us all," but others shouted back. "No, humanity did not awaken it. The trap was always waiting. They faced what we feared, and they stood for the first time in centuries." The council was divided. Some called for punishment, blaming humans for the awakening. Others demanded unity, insisting the predators threatened every world. But in the middle of the argument, one truth stood unshaken. Only humanity had dared to fight back on Earth. Transmissions from the fleet arrived. The people listened in silence as Captain Aaron's words played. "They thought us weak, but we showed them who we are," he said. "We stood when others hid. We fought when others trembled. We are humanity, and we will never bow." His voice echoed through every city, every colony, and for the first time in centuries, humanity spoke with one heart. On alien worlds, reactions were mixed. Some races trembled in fear, others watched with awe. Children asked their elders, "Why did the humans fight when no one else would?" And the elders had no answer. For the truth was bitter. Their own people had turned away, but the humans had not. The predators had been wounded. It was a small wound, a scratch against an empire of hunger. Yet it was enough to shake the stars. For the predators had never been stopped before, and now, for the first time, they bled in secret chambers. Alien leaders whispered, "If humanity can resist them, maybe we can too. Or maybe humanity will lead us all." The council had always seen humans as reckless children. Now they saw them as something else, a storm rising in the dark. Captain Aaron stood on the bridge of his battered ship. Reports came in of allies offering supplies, ships, and soldiers. But he knew their help came not from loyalty but from fear. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see if humanity would rise higher or fall first. Mira returned from the derelict, her face pale but her eyes steady. She carried fragments of the shattered sphere. The scientists studied them with awe and terror. "Not technology," they whispered, "but something alive. Something that feeds," and she told them of the message scratched into the walls. "They are here," the warning of a long-dead crew, a warning the galaxy had ignored. The council broadcasted a final decree. "All races must prepare," they said. "The predators will come again, and when they do, it will not be for one system but for all." Yet even as they spoke, the galaxy knew the truth. The first blow had already been struck, and it was humanity who had delivered it in quiet chambers. Alien leaders looked at each other and whispered, "The humans. They might be the only hope." For once the galaxy had no answer, and for the first time they began to follow. The response that changed everything. The galaxy no longer slept in peace. Every world, every colony, every ship heard the story of the battle. The predators had awakened, and their hunger stretched across the stars. But alongside the fear rose another truth. Humanity had stood against them, and survived. On Earth, people filled the streets. Screens across cities showed Captain Aaron's battered fleet. Families wept for the lost, but they also raised their voices in pride. Children pointed at the sky and said, "That is where our heroes fight." For the first time in history, Earth felt united under one cause. In the Galactic Council chamber, silence ruled. The ancient delegates who once mocked humanity now trembled. They had feared these predators for ages. Legends had whispered of their hunger, but none had dared face them until now, and none had ever wounded them until the humans. The speaker of the council's voice cracked as he spoke. "We can no longer pretend the predators are real. They will come again stronger, and if we face them divided, we will fall. Only together can we survive." But still, many delegates hesitated. They feared sacrifice, they feared battle. And so the council wavered, until Captain Aaron himself appeared before them in hologram. His uniform torn, his face marked by smoke and blood, but his eyes burned with unbroken fire. "You hide in chambers while monsters hunt in the dark," Aaron said. "You debate, you delay, but fear does not save worlds. We humans did not fight for glory. We fought because someone had to. And if you will not stand with us, then we will stand alone. But know this, and when the predators return, they will not only hunt us, they will hunt you. And the galaxy will remember who chose to fight, and who chose to run." His words thundered through the chamber, and for the first time the delegates lowered their heads, for they knew the truth. Humanity had earned the right to lead. Soon fleets across the galaxy began to move. Ships from races that had once scorned humans now rallied beside them. Weapons long stored away were armed again. Worlds that had never spoken began to share resources. Slowly, painfully, the galaxy began to unite. The predators sensed it. Their growls echoed through hidden channels. Their ships prowled at the edge of systems, but they did not attack yet. They watched, they waited for the first time. They faced prey that fought back, and they were curious on the flagship. Captain Aaron stood with Mira by his side. They looked at the growing Allied fleet outside their windows. Hundreds of ships, each from a different world, yet all standing together for the first time. Mira whispered, "Do you think it will be enough?" Aaron's jaw tightened. "It has to be," he said. "Because if we fail here, there will be nowhere left to stand." The fleet jumped into the void, not to run, not to hide, but to carry the fight to the predators. For too long the galaxy had lived in fear. Now because of humanity, the galaxy rose in defiance. When the predators came again, they did not find prey, they found resistance. Worlds united under one banner, ships standing shoulder to shoulder, and at the center of them all, leading the charge, was humanity. The battle that followed burned across the stars. Predator ships clashed with the united fleet. The void shook with fire, metal, and courage. Worlds watched as legends were born. And though the war would rage for years, the galaxy would never forget the moment it began. The moment when a single distress signal was heard, a call that had once been bait, a trap, a prison. But instead of silence, humanity answered. And their response shook the galaxy forever.